By 2016 January, 192 countries had agreed that they should incorporate some sustainable development goals into their operations. And so far, just about 50 countries have infused this into their national development. The conspicuously missing link is how to really push the private sector to tag along and to really change their CSR that has been looked at as charity and looked quite scattered into a more strategic programming and using the sustainable development goals to communicate some of their achievements. Today, I'll be speaking with the CSR Training Institute's president and founder, Wayne Dunn, to really delve into the issues and discuss how CSRs can be turned into sustainable development goals in the corporate world. Why has it delayed 2 years on? Why is it that the private sector has not embraced it? If we are talking CSR and sustainable development goals, where do they meet?
They come from the same alphabet. No, they're very, very similar, and many people don't realize. So CSR, strategic CSR that creates value, is about how you align the interests of a business with social progress and environmental stewardship. It's how you create that alignment. It's not about charity, taking business resources and donating something and going back to business. And the SDGs is an agenda for creating the world we want. It's a social progress agenda for 2030. So they really fit. If you look at how business has done CSR, it's about poverty, it's about education, it's about healthcare, it's about justice and environment and partnerships and gender. Seven things. If you look at the SDGs, they break down into the same seven things. So there is a real overlap and a synergy between them when they're looked at strategically.
So how come businesses are not aligning? How come businesses are not tagging along? Because if you take a look at all the 17 goals and you take a look at what CSR really should be targeting, social issues in relation to the environment, why can't we just then marry and just tag along for Agenda 2030?
There's probably a lot of reasons. I would fault how we've communicated the SDGs and how we've set up the value propositions on them. The SDGs are a global agenda. They're tracked globally, they're tracked in national accounts. And by and large, the language, the discussion, the value propositions around the SDGs have evolved into a very high-level, bureaucratic-sounding language that's very comfortable for PhD economists, not so comfortable for the rest of us. Too often, business looks at that, looks at how the world is communicating SDGs, and runs the other way because it feels like horrible bureaucracy and cost. So we really need to look at how do we present the SDGs, how do we democratize them? How do we democratize the SDGs so that the language is understandable and relevant to constituents? Because if you look at the SDGs, they're for everybody. They're for the woman in the market. They're for the doctor in the hospital, they're for the patient in the hospital, they're for the politician, they're for the business. It's about the world that we all want. It's about the world that will give our children a better world. And yet we haven't sort of brought that language down, and we haven't built out the value propositions that connect the self-interest of businesses of all types, of organizations of all types, with the SDG agenda.
We have done 2 years already of the SDGs. We're left with 13 years to hit the mark of 2030. Are we looking like getting there when it comes to how to really break the language down? Have we even noticed that this is one of the major issues for which we must take a look at and get people to understand in the first place?
That's a good question. I don't know that I have the answer, but I'm encouraged when I come to a country like Ghana, when I come to a country like Nigeria, and I see the energy that's going into it, when I see the communications, when I see the outreach that's engaging more and more people. There's much more awareness of the SDGs here than there is in North America, than there is in parts of Europe.
That perhaps maybe to the fact that maybe a lot of the goals actually do not really concern them. For example, most of North America, most of the developed countries, their major issue is got to do with climate change, and so for them that's the real focus, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you hit a good point in that the SDGs are different things for different people and different constituencies, different audiences, and that's where we need to get to. I think the work of the president's office on sort of pushing the SDG agenda out and engaging ministries, and the work now to engage the private sector more is important. We need to look at the why more. Why is it in the interest? Why should the private sector be more engaged in the SDGs? Is engaging in the SDGs has to be more than a responsibility and feel more like an obligation.
I think India has done virtually that. When India decided to marry the SDGs and CSR in some sort of Regulation 7, I think. And so far, since the implementation after the MDGs, the issues are that India has been able to see about 41% rise in people wanting to do CSR projects in relation to the SDGs. 50 countries have been able to integrate this into their national development. Is it an issue of integrating this into the national development so that we can have a trickle-down effect for businesses, or rather from the bottom-top approach?
I think you need both ways. And what's important, integrating into the national agenda is important, because the public agenda, the publicly financed economy is a big part of all economies, of all countries. So that integration is important. Concurrent with that, we also need to help and ensure that businesses of all types see their own self-interest. You can go, when I go to Cargill's website, huge multinational, and they've got a very elaborate picture of how the SDGs how they interact with the SDGs as a business. But that same thinking can apply to your vendor who's looking to develop contracts with Tullow or with Hess or Newmont or other major companies. Because what's happening is companies of all types, businesses of all types, are feeling increasing pressure from society and stakeholders that they deliver social progress and environmental stewardship along with shareholder value. And they're looking at their own operations for that. They're also looking into their supply chain. So, and this is where the strategic self-interest comes in. If I'm a supplier wanting to break in and work with oil and gas and mining companies or other internationally financed businesses that are operating here in Ghana or anywhere, I want them to know that I am contributing to society, that as a business we're contributing to society, we're contributing to the SDGs. Why do I want them to know that? Because that will make us more attractive. As a business, everything else being equal, price and service, they're going to want to work with that business that they know isn't going to bring a social risk because it's already delivering on social issues. It's going to be an effective environmental manager. And if these smaller businesses and vendors learn to do their reporting and communications correctly, that can roll up so the Tullows, the Hesses, the Cosmos, the Newmonts, the Golden Stars and others can incorporate that into their own reporting, so it captures more value for them.
But in a country where people really do not understand even why they must get involved in CSR, and for that matter of pay extension, take a look at the SDGs. How then do you even communicate to them that this is attractive? Exactly what's in for them?
You know, that's interesting, because most businesses in Ghana are already contributing to the SDGs and to CSR. Many of them don't even realize it, but it is amazing to sit down and do a workshop with management and workers and lay out the 17 SDGs and look at both some of what the businesses are already doing CSR and what they're doing from their mainstream operations. They're shocked at the amount of impact that they're having. So I think, you know, part of it is we need to simplify it. It's not a big black mystery box. It's really quite simple. I was with a logistics firm yesterday, and and they're looking at developing a sustainability report. They're already doing the work. I was with a pharmacy company at the same time. They're already doing a lot of sustainability, of SDG impact work as part of their CSR, and their mainstream business has an SDG impact as well. They've never looked at it within that framework, so they're not able to communicate it well. So there's a strategic opportunity for businesses like this to invest a small amount in sort of capturing what they're already doing, putting it in an SDG framework, and communicating it, and they're going to get a lot of value leverage from that. Because
tell us about the value.
As we learn to sort of put what we're doing into that framework, it makes it easier to understand. Golden Star Resources, that runs a couple mines in Ghana, is a great example. They have a very simple, easy to do sustainability report, but they've taken what they're doing and they've listed the SDG impacts on it. What that does, it makes that report more relevant to their stakeholders. They can look, they can see where the SDG impacts are. It also engages the workforce and the people inside Golden Star, because people want to work for companies that are doing good. People want to work for profitable companies because they want to get paid. They want to, we all have financial goals we have to survive in today's world. But we also, for the most part, all of us have a desire. We want to be proud of the company we work with. We want to know that where we put all of this energy is also doing some good somehow. And as companies learn how to organize what they're doing and communicate that both internally and externally, if you're engaging with your people more, they're more motivated, they're going to stay on longer, they're going to work harder, they're going to do more, they're going to be more engaged, they're going to have more fun at work, they're going to you're going to have better employees, you're going to have less recruiting costs, you're going to have less training costs, you're going to have better retention. That's a huge value driver for business. And in the same way, your regulators, government, stakeholders, if you're doing B2B, if you're selling to consumers, your stakeholders are wanting to associate with businesses that are having positive social impact, that are contributing to social progress, that are effective stewards of the environment. So as you communicate that better, you engage with those stakeholders more, they're more motivated to work with you. A lot of it comes down, if you look at business value, in the last 40 years, you've seen 100% reversal in business value. I've got to get my years straight now. In 1975, the average stock exchange, the average value of a share traded on a stock exchange was 83% book value and 17% intangibles, reputation, brand. The book value was plant and equipment and cash and bank and inventory and those hard things that you can see and touch and feel and taste. 40 years later, that's totally reversed. So the average value of a company is only 17% what's on its books. Things like this table, inventory, cash and bank. 83% is intangibles. It's reputational capital. It's brand equity. It's the ability of a company to operate. So working with the SDGs is a great way to build reputational capital, a great way to build brand value, and the leverage on that, if you're getting 83 cents of value from brand value and intangibles and only 17% from hard assets, your leverage is huge. So but still so many people see CSR as charity and philanthropy. They don't look at it strategically, and yet I've seen business after business create sustainable competitive advantage, put up a barrier that helps them fend off competition and be more successful in the marketplace simply by being smarter, by being smarter at how they align their business value with social progress and environmental stewardship.
Now, I remember that one of the things you also spoke about at one of your functions was about a company called Blackrock, the leading investment company in the world, 6 trillion in investment. And one of the things they have said is that if companies do not tag along with the SDGs, and for that matter, infuse CSR also in their operations, it will get to a point where they would actually not be attractive for investment. Tell us about that.
Thanks for bringing that up. That is a great example. January 15th, New York Times, big article by the CEO of Blackrock, the world's largest investor, and basically it said, contribute to society or lose our investment. Think of it. This is not an impact investor. This is not some do-gooder off the street that's going to save the world. This is a hard-nosed Wall Street investor who's concerned about financial returns. And yet he's saying, if you want my investment, connect with the world, contribute to society. Why is he saying that? Because it makes business sense. Businesses that aren't engaged with society, that aren't contributing to society, have increased risks. They have increased recruiting and training costs. They lose more employees. They have markets at risk. They have regulatory risk. They have reputational capital risk. And by and large, they have poorer management. Their management has a myopic focus that doesn't understand the big picture. So he's looking, he's got $6 trillion. He's concerned about his return this quarter, but he's also planning, quarters and years out and looking at trends and where things are going. And he recognizes that companies that aren't engaged with society and contributing to society, and the SDGs are a great framework for doing that. Companies that aren't there are missing opportunities. They are accumulating risk. They are disasters waiting to happen in many cases. And you see that, from investors of all sorts. You've got a growing pool of financial capital that is going into impact and investing.
Show us how companies can connect and really take a look at the SDGs and integrate them into their operations. And because many people, for example, if I'm a law firm and all I do is go to court to hear cases of my clients, I'm really not bothered about how to do a social good, because all I'm interested in is going out there to win my cases for my clients. Maybe occasionally I could do a pro bono case, but I can't be bothered about the SDGs. So if you are a consultant and you came to me, how do companies integrate this to make sure that they're actually doing the social good and still looking at their bottom line?
A law firm is a good example, and I'm going to make this example on the fly, so I may stumble a bit, but if you look at justice, the legal profession is about justice.
That's right.
It's about just results from disputes, about allocations, and justice goes beyond winning an individual case. And that's why bar associations have a big interest in the principle of justice. Bar associations encourage pro bono cases. They encourage that justice goes beyond the ability to pay for a lawyer. So, that's if you erode that principle far enough, what's the use of lawyers? If it ends up being 10 billionaires fighting with each other. So, but we all need for business to work, for society to work, we need a society that has some level of justice in the allocation of resources and benefits and values, and and that connects to the SDGs. So on that level there's a connection. But if I'm a business, and how do I look at it? How do I look at how I integrate the SDGs into my strategy? First one is, I need to look at what's my purpose. What's the why of my business? Why am I in business? And if the only why you can come up with is to make a profit, you won't be in business long, because that may be your personal interest. But if you don't figure out a way to get others to buy into your personal interest, you won't be around very, very long. So you need a broader why than that. So when you start to look at the mission or purpose of a business, you see that it connects to shareholder value. It has to. It absolutely has to. But that, in successful businesses, there's also a connection to social and environment and the world we live in. Business exists because it provides a service to society. It provides value to society, or else why would it exist? And business succeeds by being efficient at how it provides that value to society. It provides the value to society efficiently enough that society will pay for it, and it can be produced and still have a profit for the shareholders. But there's a social value component of that. So the first step is to understand the purpose of a business, which is broader and deeper and more meaningful than simply creating profits and shareholder value. The next is to step back, look at your business, and I often do it with a matrix. I take 17 rows, I put the 17 sustainable development goals. I put products and services and internal operations and, CSR and outreach activities and several other things in the columns. And then we just go down and, okay, your product that you have, how does that contribute to poverty? How does it contribute to education? Some, maybe not. Some do. But by systematically going through and asking those questions of themselves, businesses can develop a map of how they're already impacting the SDGs. And I have yet to do that with a business that wasn't incredibly surprised at the level of impact they're having. It's a simple exercise. That's one step. So you sort of map out your SDG impacts. The next step is to map out your stakeholders and their SDG interests. So you've got internal stakeholders, your employees, you've got governments and regulators and customers, whether it's consumers or business-to-business customers. You've got pressure groups and communities, and everybody has their own stakeholder map. Look at your stakeholders. Look at how they are impacted by the SDGs. What are their interests in each of the SDGs? You take those two pieces and you put them together, and you find a lot of synergies. You're going to find that your business is impacting in SDG areas where there's strong stakeholder interest. And in some of them, there's often an opportunity where you can actually do more and be more profitable at the same time. And then you take that, you prioritize it, you find the sweet spots, and you start to take action on them, and then you communicate them effectively.
Finally, reward system. Do you think this could break the language and make it simpler? That if businesses are able to tag along and get some implementation of the SDGs, they get a tax holiday, they get to perhaps get some government recognition or government opportunities. Can this help break the language down?
I think that there's always potential. The tax system can be used to stimulate investment. I mean, it comes down at its most basic. What you tax, you get less of. What you reward, you get more of. There's a cost benefit around that. So I think that's a difficult question to answer sort of generically. I think that the real value is internal. The real value is for businesses to understand the SDG impacts they're having, the SDG interests of their stakeholders, and where there's synergy and where they can create more business value and social and environmental value by focusing on those areas and then communicating that effectively. I think one of the things I would encourage governments to do more of is facilitate discussions. I mean, it would be great to see Ghana host a big private sector SDG gala where we have some awards, we have some recognition, we start to drive things around it. I mean, the Club 100 that GIPC has is a great example. I mean, they're doing great work. I mean, this is not to say that they're not already doing great work, and these companies are doing good things. An interesting discussion yesterday about a lot of the challenges of women-led businesses, and we're going into International Women's Day on Thursday. And the challenges of women-led businesses and the challenge they have of sort of separating business and home, and both the financial part and the personal and lifestyle part. And my response on that was, this is a great opportunity for financial services firms to step up and develop programming that will help to give them smarter, more successful customers for their services and help to make a difference. Because a lot of what happens with, small women-headed businesses, 2, 3, 4 people involved, is the woman still has the responsibility for the household economy, and she has her business, and often they get blurred, and
one gets to run into another.
One runs into another. But part of the challenge on that is, many of these women have low levels of literacy. They're quite numerate, but they have low levels of literacy, and really they do not have a strong sense of financial literacy, of household economic literacy. And this is happening, especially in Ghana, in transition households, where the household is transitioning from a subsistence economy to a salary or cash-based economy. And the tools and mechanisms for managing household finances and economics are different in a subsistence household economy than in a cash or a salary-based household economy. And that knowledge, I mean, often these people come from extended families where they may be the first making that transition. So they're not able to go to the elders or to their uncles or their aunts and get that advice. And our financial institutions, our banks, do better when they have smarter customers. Banks do better when they have smarter customers. Customers that are better able to use loans, insurance, deposit taking, all of the services the financial sector has. So it would be great to either see, a group of banks or individual banks step up, develop a program to work with some of these. I mean, if you go to AGI, the Association of Ghana Industries, and you look at the number of women-headed businesses that are there, but they're basically almost micro-level businesses. So if our banks developed a program to work with these women on a financial and economic literacy program.
That would be good. I must quickly add that in recent times, the president awarded 8 businesses. Unfortunately, there was no woman amongst them, but all the CEOs were men, and the agenda that the president gave these people was to really push for gender equity at their places of work, and to serve as an example for other companies to want to push more women into their institutions. That's all that time has, for us to have a discussion on development agenda. I am hoping to see that more businesses get to use the resources that you have, and I'm sure we will, by Agenda 2030, be able to achieve more than we currently have. Well, I've been speaking with Wayne Dunn, well, it rhymes, but he is the founder of CSR Training Institute that's based here in Ghana and also in Canada. What I will say quickly is that they've got a lot of things on their website. If you're a business and you're looking at how to do proper integration with your CSR and indeed align yourself with the SDGs and be very attractive for international funding, this is your opportunity, and you can find a lot on the website. By 2030, some 12 trillion, according to the World Economic Forum, would be added to the world's economy based on sustainable businesses. And that sounds like a very good thing. That's if we have a very strong understanding of the SDGs that's being done at the business level. My name is Odelia Ntiamoah. Have a good day.